So I wanted to provide a basic kind of tutorial on how to use our in-ear Aviom system. It's a great way for us to isolate what's going on stage and really hear all the instruments. We've kind of moved towards it as a way for us to play better as a band. It keeps us in touch with each other. You can hear particular parts a lot better. It gives us the click track so we're all on the same page as far as tempo and such. So I'm going to give you a basic kind of rundown on how the Aviom works and just a couple suggestions we would have as to the best kind of mix that you would get so you can hear your part, what you're doing, and then the context of the other musicians and a little bit of the room as well. So let me walk you through. These are the new Aviom units that we have, the A360s, and I'll show you just a little bit of how to set it up and what's the best kind of suggestions to get the best mix for serving. So this is the Aviom unit, and it's got lots of bells and whistles, lots of knobs, but there's some few basic things you really need to have. When you first come, we've started using these little tags, and you can say this is like for a worship leader lead, and it has 1, Mark, 2, Andy. These are the different worship leaders. For each one of the spots, eventually we'll have them and give you a number, and all you'd have to do is hit recall, and then hit whatever. My number is number 1, I'd hit that, and it would have my preset. So it's a nice way, specifically for the instrumentalist, to get set up. We have so many vocalists that only have 16 channels of presets, so the vocalist, you just got to set the mix up each and every time you come. So when you first go to set up your mix, you want to find out which number you are going to be. So if, say for instance, you're a vocalist and your vocal number 3, channel number 3, that's you. This knob is your basic volume knob. And then this is your panning. These are the key pieces you need to get a really good mix. What I would suggest is make sure you get your voice up good and dead center. Panning is such a huge part of separating out the mix and being able to hear clearly the different pieces. So say for instance, I'll do singers first. You would come in, you'd hit your vocal part, try to figure out which channel, if you're vocal 3 or vocal 4. All you do is hit that channel, then play with the volume. You'll have to walk back and forth to the mic, or take the mic off the stand. The unit's close by. You can take it off the stand, talk into it so you can hear you. I'd encourage, the other knob that's really important is this master volume. And I'd encourage you to go set it around 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. Somewhere there is a basic good starting point. Once you kind of have your vocal part set up, then you want to start the other parts. You'll be tuning with another singer, and you'll be tuning with the worship leader, so the worship box spot. So you would hear this vocalist, make sure their volume's up, and then pan them. Maybe pull them off axis slightly to the left. Then take the worship leader, turn that volume off, pan it slowly axis off to the right, so you have some separation. That way your mix is dead center, so you can always hear yourself, but you'll hear the worship leader come out of one side a little bit more than the other, and you'll have the other vocalist come one side out of the other. Then the other thing that's really key for a vocalist, you probably want to have the lead instrument, which could be an electric guitar if the worship leader is playing electric, or an acoustic guitar, and maybe the piano, which would be keys 1, because some of the songs are keys driven. And so you want to make sure that's up pretty good. You have to have some pitched instrument in there so that you can tune to it. I've heard some of our singers like to have a good solid amount of bass, that they find that's easy for them to find the chords and their part off of. So you might want to bring a little bass in. With all those parts though, pan them. If you don't pan them, you're going to have everything fighting for dead center, and it's going to be a confusing, muddled mix. If you ever get to the place where you say, hey, my vocal, I've had it all the way up and I still can't hear myself, our suggestion is this. Take the master volume, turn it up to 2 or 3. Everything now is going to get louder. Then go back into these other parts, turn them down, turn the master vox down, the worship leader vox and the other vocal, maybe turn the keys down, because everything will have been boosted up. Then you should be able to really hear your part at that point. And just until it sounds right, just keep turning the master volume up if you don't have any headroom. If you still have done that and it still doesn't help, tell the worship leader or the front of house guy, and they can, there might have been something as far as the signal they're sending you. They can, from the front of house board, send us more signal so that everybody gets more of that. But for the most times, it's usually just the singer that can't hear themselves, and the rest of the band is okay. For the band, you can see what we've done. We've panned the room like it is normally set up on stage. So the worship leader's kind of center, so we put them far left. And then it runs stage right, vocalist, behind them is the keys, the organ, the bass flows to starting to get stage left now. Drums are far stage left. The click, for all singers and instrumentalists, you probably want to have a little click in there. Many times, even for the singers, we'll do a slow song, and the keyboard player will just be locking in block chords, and there'll be lots of space in the song. And I constantly hear that we start drifting off tempo, or the lead singer who's leading it might not hear that tempo and drift us off. So especially if you're leading a song and it's a piano-led one, make sure there's a little click in there and put that one dead center so you can hear it pretty good. The electric guitar is on our stage is far stage left, so I would pan him far stage left. And then these open channels are something like if we have a stem will usually have a click on it, its own click, and so I'd put that dead center, and then it'll have like a keyboard part or electric guitar part. If you want that in there as a vocalist, pan it really hard one side. Band, you may want to have that in there as well because there may be parts that are like a pulsating arpeggio that helps keep time for us a little bit, so that might fill in the tone for you a little bit more. A couple other features you might want to play around with to help your mix sound better is there's a bass and a treble. If the things are sounding a little muddied, you might up the bass a little bit or up the treble a little bit. You can see these are sitting at 12 o'clock. That's a pretty good starting point. But if you are really finicky about your tone, feel free to play around with those in the sound check and kind of get that so it sounds good. I'd also recommend the reverb is kind of nice. Vocalists, you may want to add that to your channel. So you hit your channel and then you play your reverb until it gives a little bit of room. It's a little bit like singing in your shower where everything seems to sound better in your shower because there's a little bit of reverb in there. So you can kind of adjust what sounds good to you, and each channel will have its own reverb setting. I'd say for the most part, maybe just vocals. You may find that some of the other pieces like an acoustic guitar might sound good. You want to get a simple mix, and so unless you really feel like you need it, I'd suggest leaving the reverb alone. But for singers especially, it's kind of nice to have a little bit of reverb in there. The other thing that's important is what we call FOH mix. The front of house, we want to be able to hear him talk to us if he has some suggestions for us or if we're working through a problem. And on this, you can already see the front of house isn't in the mix. Make sure it's dead center and in your mix. That way he can talk to us and we can hear comments. Sometimes he counts us in at the beginning of the service with that, so you could hear that. The other thing we have in the front of house mix is we have 2 microphones that float out and pick up the congregation. So there's moments where we're singing and worshiping and maybe I get off mic and I invite them to sing along with us and they will chime in and you can hear them through that. So it makes you feel like you're in the room a little bit more. But be careful, if you have too much of it, the mix is going to swim. It's going to sound way too muddy. You've got way too much room. So you just want a little bit of it there so you can hear the front of house sound engineer and you can hear a little bit of the room. So one other kind of important thing when you're trying to get a good mix is the kind of earpieces that you have. If you're bringing in your iPod headphones, I can guarantee it's going to be a terrible sound. The iPod headphones are some of the cheapest headphones you can get. If you go to the front of house board, we actually have $150 headphones that we have with interchangeable inserts, so they're hygienical, and you can just put those in and they'll give you a way better tone quality than just using iPods. If it's something you bought at Best Buy, I can pretty much guarantee you it's not going to sound good, and it's going to be hard for you to hear yourself, and it's going to be hard to hear the sound of the musicians around you. So make sure to get really good headphones. I mean, the suggestion we would give is get molded pieces because then it makes it quiet on stage, and it also gives you the opportunity to really hear your part, but they are expensive. They usually run about $250 to $300 kind of entry level, but they're your best bet. But you can get a good set of headphones online somewhere that aren't molded, that just would allow you to have a really good tone quality and good highs and lows and mids and stuff. So there are those as well, and we can give you suggestions.